Okay, 5.4. Did you find a spot that looks like that? Okay. I also gave you a sheet that kind of has a general idea of what's going on. It's a nice sheet to keep beside you. Okay, so what we're going to do today is we're going to take those quadratic equations that we got in the first section. Now we're going to be working to make the equation ourselves. Okay, so here's the forms that you could see quadratic equations in. So the first one is called a general form. Okay, so you can see what it looks like. We know that we worked with this, especially with the quadratic formula. This is the factored form. So we've seen that when we've factored to get the x-intercepts. So we've done that. Okay, this unit now is all about going kind of backwards of that. And then we'll be talking more about these forms. Okay, again, you have seen these forms given to you, and now we're going to be making them. Okay, here we go. Make an equation of a quadratic with a vertex of that and a slope of that. Okay, so the slope is what letter, and the vertex is what letter. And also I'm going to think about which form should I use. If I'm given the vertex and the slope, which method should I use? The first, the second, or the third? The third, because I've been given a vertex, so I'm going to go with the vertex form. Okay, so we're picking vertex form. I'm just going to write it out. You don't have to. Okay, the slope will replace which letter? Which letter of those is the slope? The A. So I'm going to put 2 right there. And the vertex is which letter and which letter? The vertex is always the H and the K. Okay, when we're putting it in, here's what I want you to think about. Because this is minus H, we're going to put in the opposite. So because I see a 1, I'm going to go minus 1. And because this is a plus K, a plus means to do whatever you see. So I see a minus 3, so I'm going to minus 3. And there's my final equation. So every time you have a final equation, it better contain all of the info except for x and y. Because when we graph, we always do y equals and then x's. So we need x and y left. Okay, I've been given a vertex and a point. So which one of the 3 forms should I pick? I've been given a vertex and a point. So I'm going to pick vertex again because I've been given the vertex. As soon as I know the vertex, I can use that. Okay, so this is going to go in for the H, and this is going to go in for the K. Vertex is always HK. So minus 3 will go there, and a positive 5 will go there. So did you notice how the H, I wrote the opposite because I had a subtract? And did you notice how the K, I wrote the same value because it was a plus? Now, point. What kind of letters does a point give us? An X and a y. So that means in the equation where I saw an x, I'm going to put a 1. And the equation where I saw y, I'm going to put a 1. And the thing that I don't know is a. So we're going to have to figure that out. Okay? It's going to take algebra. We have to do algebra here. So would this make sense to you? The first thing I want to do algebraically is -5. Does that work? I'm going to -5 from both sides. So -4. I'm also going to, at the same time, figure out what my bracket is. I'm going to do two things at once if this is okay with you. 1 subtract 3 is -2 squared. Now I'm going to figure this out. What is -2 squared? So it's thinking -2 times -2. Some of you got this wrong on your quadratic formula because you were typing this in. This is negative of 2 squared. That's wrong. This is the right way to do it. Some of you typed that wrong in your formulas yesterday. So -2 squared is this one, +4. This is your notes.
Oh.
Yep. So you have it. It's the same notes as we were working in. Now we're just kind of in the middle of it. It's called 5.4. Okay, I'm going to divide. So now I figured out what the slope of this quadratic is. So it's opening down. I'm going to write my final equation. So when you write your equation, you write it with everything except the x and y's stay put. So y equals, I can now replace a with -1, x -3 squared plus 5. So I put the vertex, the 3 part and the 5 part in there, and the slope part in there. But I left the x's and y's open. Okay, you don't need to do this. I'm going to do this because I'm going to show you the connections to what we've been doing, the visual connections. So here's a vertex at 3, 5. You don't need to write this. Just watch for a second. The vertex is there, and I have a point at 1, 1. Does it make sense to go through that point? I need a negative slope. Okay? Okay, now I'm also going to talk about this because we might run into this. How much would I have to move physically to get there? From my vertex to that point. How much would I have to over and how much would I have to move in a down? So this one is at 3 and this point is at a 1. So I had to move over 2. This one is up at 5 and now I went to 1, means I'm going down 4. Okay, 2 squared is 4, but instead of doing 4 up, I went 4 down. So does that make sense that my slope is going to be a -1? Okay? So because we're working with quadratics and quadratics are squaring x, everything should move accordingly to its x value squared. So when I went over 2, 2 squared is plus 4, but I went minus 4. Okay? So I did change the slope. Okay, next one. I was given a vertex. I'm going to put H and K on top of that. And I was given the y-intercept. Now this one is tricky. You're going to have to remember that the y-intercept is actually a point. When I would think about it as how do I write that as a point, it's what comma what? Good, 0, 5. So if I have a coordinate of a point, I now have an x and a y, because points are x, y's. Okay, again, out of the equations, well, general I'm not picking factors. I'm again picking the vertex form. Okay, so I'm going to write it here. You don't need to if you're looking at your page. So vertex form. So I'm going to plug the 1 and 8 into the h and k. So this will be a -1 because it has to go in opposite because it's a subtraction. So whatever you have to write the opposite. And in the k position, whatever I have, I write the same. Now I'm going to replace the y with a 5. And I'm going to replace the x with a 0. Okay, some of you, I'm not really going to show this both ways, but if some of you use this, I'm fine with it. It's just that here I already moved the k over. Okay? If you like to use this, it's just that the k is already onto that side. Because right now, I'm going to have to algebraically do that anyway. So if anybody likes to use that one, that's fine as well. Okay, so let's get the a. So I'm going to -8 so I subtracted 8. 0 subtract 1 makes a -1. If I were to do a -1 squared, it would be a +1. So a is just going to be a -3. Okay, I'm going to write my equation. And we need to leave the x and the y open this time. So y equals a, so there's my -3, x opposite, so subtract 1 squared, the same is +8. Okay, I'm going to show you visually what happened here. So that's the equation. I'm just going to show you a visual here. Okay, that is a quick shot of what this would look like. So there's my 1, 8 vertex, and then there's my y-intercept. obviously I need to go down. So my slope is going to be negative. How much did I physically move? So I would have had to make a move over 1, and I would have had to go down 3. So let's see. If I ever do an x of 1, 1 squared is 1. Yep. Yeah. 1 squared is 1. What would I ever have to times it by to end up going down 3? So that is why I'm getting a slope of negative 3. Okay. Ready. Now, can you close the door? I don't know what's going on out there. It's chatty. Is there lots of people out there or what? Okay, make an equation with x-intercepts at 2 and negative 6. Okay, so this paper that I gave you, now, this time I'm going to use this format called factored form. It's to use when you know the x-intercepts. So use it when you know the x-intercepts. So for instance, if you ever had an x-intercept of 2, do you understand it would have a factor of x minus 2? Because you just did this. You just factored for me. And this would have been an x plus 6. Those would have been the factors. Okay, so this is the form. So the factors, so we are going to do the opposites. So the opposites, because the form has a minus the x-intercept, a minus the x-intercept, so we do the opposites. So in any formula, when you see a minus, write the opposite of what you have. Okay, so that's where I'm replacing those. And I've been given a y-intercept, which is a point. And we just did this, so that's a point. And a point will tell me an x number and a y number. That's a point. So that means I'm going to replace y with a negative 24. I'm going to replace the x's with a 0. And I'm going to figure out a. This is the same kind of idea every time. You're going to figure out a. Okay, so the first bracket ends up being negative 2 and then 0 plus 6. So the second bracket is 6. Then I'm going to times the two brackets. Just my algebra. I'm just doing some algebra maneuvers here. And now I'm going to divide. So the slope is 2. Okay, again, your ending will be an equation with the info, except the x and y's need to be left. So y equals, the a I'm now going to put in a 2, x minus 2, x plus 6. So I kept the minus 2 intercept So those are the intercept parts. Opposite, you write the opposite. And the intercept parts and the slope part, but leave the x and the y. Okay. Ooh, this one is tricky. I don't know if I'll ever put one this tricky on here. So this one is a quadratic with an x-intercept at 5. And it only has one x-intercept. So that's kind of what I'm thinking it would look like. Okay. I'm going to use this form. Okay, when you have one x-intercept, it actually will have to be put in here repeated. Okay, and because it's a positive 5, I'm going to put in a minus 5. It's the only x-intercept, so I'm just going to put it into the both spots. It will get doubled. So there's the 5, the intercept. And the point is an x and a y. So I'm going to replace y with -4. And I'm going to replace x with the 3. So this one was just tricky because some of you only maybe put the bracket in there once, but it will end up being in there twice because it just gets repeated. That's why there's only one intercept. It just gets repeated. Okay. So 3 subtract 5 is -2. Three subtract 5, 3 subtract 5, a -2 and a -2. Okay, keep going, algebra. So now I'd have to do -2 times -2. Wake up. Wake up. 4. And can we divide that out? A is -1. And it makes sense because look how I drew it. Negative. Flipped. So I need a final equation. So y equals -1 bracket x minus 5 x minus 5 because you need it repeated. You can't just have one x in there because it's not creating a quadratic. You need something that makes an x squared, right?
Could you just put like a square
Yes,
at the end?
like this. Yes. That's what's happening, yeah. Okay, ready. The next one says, the quadratic has x-intercepts at 10 and 2. And a slope of -1. So that's kind of just what I know about it right now. It has intercepts at 10 and 2. And it has a slope of -1, so it's going to be going downward. Figure out where the vertex is. I got to figure that out. I have no idea. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to write an equation in factored form because I was given the x-intercepts. So don't write this down, I'm just writing it on my page here. So that's my factored form. So I'm going to insert my intercepts, and because this is a subtract, they're going in as opposite. So minus 2, minus 10. So that's me inserting my intercept parts. So the x-intercept of 2 goes in with a minus 2. Okay? And I can also replace the slope with a negative 1. This could be put into my calculator because I have all the info with the x and y left open. So I'm going to do that. Exactly how you see it written on my page, you're going to have to put brackets on those. Please make sure it's a baby negative 1. Okay, for me, I can't see all of it. I think I'm going to go a little more right and a little more up. So the window, I'm going to go x max 15, y max 15, and let's just see. Ooh, still not high enough. Okay, I did my x to 15, which is good, but I'm going to do my y to 20. Okay, how do I get the vertex? Second calculate. Maximum. Be on the left, move it to the right. I got 6, 16. 6, 16. So move it left, right. Get your 6, 16. Okay, we are now asked to write an equation in vertex form. So this is what I'm looking at, and you will always have a paper that shows you that formula. It doesn't tell you what to do, but it will show you this formula. So I'm going to put a vertex in for the letters H and K. So the minus H, so I'm thinking opposite. So minus 6 will go into that spot. And K is a plus, so I write plus 16. I leave X, I leave Y, and we already knew the slope is still the same. It doesn't matter if you change the form, your slope is always going to be the same. Okay, that was the last example. I might do some in your booklets here with you though.